Welcome back to Box Prep. There's a fight happening this weekend between Erislandy Lara and Ronald Hearns, and I'm going to give my brief prediction here. I predict that Erislandy Lara wins by stoppage around the 8th round. Let's talk about Erislandy Lara first. Cuban amateur turned professional, has an extensive amateur background, very technically sound, good movement, quite elusive, knows how to hold the centre of the ring even against an aggressive volume puncher like Paul Williams, and he is accurate and quick. In his last two fights, he's had a bit of an up and down time because they've both been controversial. He had a 10-round draw against Carlos Molina, who is a very awkward and good boxer, giving a lot of people trouble at the moment. But many thought that Molina should have been given a decision in that one. Basically, Lara looked, he just didn't look himself, he just didn't look on his game. But that may be more a fact that he was up against Carlos Molina, who was making him look that way. And then in his last fight, he had a 12-round decision loss against Paul Williams, which, quite frankly, was a robbery, and many people feel he should have been handed the decision in that one. His last opponent, Paul Williams, there is physically a lot of similarities between him and Ronald Hearns, this opponent here. Let's move on to Ronald Hearns. He's given quite a lot of stick. I think basically because his father Thomas Hearns, but he's only lost 2 fights out of 20, and he's won 26. He's actually stopped 20 of his opponents that he's beaten. That's 20 out of 26 opponents. So he shows he's got some power. Unfortunately, the 2 losses he has have both come by stoppage. He lost to Harry Joe Yogi, who at the time, remember, was unbeaten and has only lost once, and that was against Alfredo Angulo, and we know how Angulo operates. And then Ronald Hearns went on in his last fight to lose by TKO against Felix Sturm, who is a solid champion out of Germany, and just recently in his last fight defeated Sebastian Zabik by stoppage, and I actually called Zabik in that fight. So, you know, by no means shameful losses. But it does show a bit of a trend for me. In positives, he has a lot of he has good range and height in this fight. He has the physical attributes. He has the height and reach advantage over Erislandy Lara, as Paul Williams did. And he has a decent jab. So he has to establish that early, and he has to maintain a good pace throughout the fight. I think both of these guys do, because this is a 10-rounder. Let's look at negatives here. The negatives for Erislandy Lara for me, basically, is that we saw in the Molina fight, he has to be on his game. He looked a bit lackadaisical in that fight. He looked a bit off his game. He needs to turn up. He needs to be, fully prepared. I think that may have been a one-off against Molina, and I think he's going to come in sharp for this fight. Ronald Hearns, like Paul Williams, does tend, as the fight goes on, to neglect his range. He starts swinging wide, and this opens him up to counters, opens him up down the middle. Against a guy, technically sound guy like Erislandy Lara, this is going to be critical. He gets caught with too many jabs for my liking, and I think Erislandy Lara can actually exploit this in this fight. So what I think this comes down to is that I think Lara is going to want to make sure, after losing a controversial decision to Williams, that he, doesn't leave this to the judges. I think he's going to set a really fast pace. I think he's going to, as the rounds go by, start to overwhelm Ronald Hearns, start to push him back. I think he's going to hold the centre of the ring. I think he's going to make Hearns uncomfortable. And I think he's going to start exploiting when Hearns starts to open up. For Hearns, I would look for him to start establishing the jab early and really try to set his pace and try and control the pace of the fight with his jab, and try and use his range as much as he can. But inevitably, I'm expecting him to start getting opened up as the fight goes on, and then as we approach just past the halfway stage, I think Lara will start coming on strong, and I think he stops Hearns. So. Yep, that's my thoughts on the fight. I'm going to leave it there. Don't want this to get too long. Please let me know what you guys think. What do you think of Lara? A couple of controversial fights recently. Do you think he's still as a potent force as he was regarded? should we really take stock of those two fights? Are we looking into them too much, or do we need to really think about those? And also Ronald Hearns, in his father's shadow. What do you actually think of him, guys? And what chance do you give him in this fight? Thanks for watching.